putting her greatest asset on the line. They just signed a $2.2 billion media contract. That's right. The WNBA's actually got a good right there. And then she tried to act like, well, I'm going to help you up. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And that is drawing. You know, this is not an accident. The fact that she acted like she didn't see her is ridiculous. That was not accidental. It was clearly a frustration foul. Through here, people are pissed. How long is the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, going to allow these intentional assaults? Outrage.
He blows right past it. 31 points, 12 assists, the Rookie of the Year race is a wrap. And he's not wrong, but he's underselling it. Because that wasn't just a good night. That was the first 30-point, 12-assist game in the history of this league. Nobody had ever done it. Not Diana Taurasi, not Sue Bird, not Cynthia Cooper. A rookie did it in Chicago on a Friday night in August. And here's what I can't get past. The single hardest hit she took all season came in the fourth quarter of the game, where she rewrote the record book. That's the whole story of her rookie year compressed into 40 minutes. She makes history, and she gets put on the floor for it. So let's talk about what the league actually did about that.
Haven't watched her play. Picture a female that's a hybrid love child of Larry Bird and Steph Curry with the branding of Michael Jordan. It is pretty phenomenal to watch. I'm not even going to lie. Me and the family love watching Caitlin Clark play. Well, we had another incident last night. All right, we had another incident, and people are now calling out the commissioner.
Larry Bird and Steph Curry with Michael Jordan's branding. That's the comp he lands on. And honestly, it's not the reach it sounds like. Real ratings, real revenue, sold out buildings on the road all summer. That's the part people who dunk on this take keep missing. This isn't a fan being a fan. This is a business reality. And it's the reason the physicality conversation is not a she needs to toughen up conversation. When one player is carrying the gate, the broadcast window, and the sponsorship inventory for an entire league, how she gets officiated stops being a basketball question and becomes a balance sheet question, which is exactly where he goes next.
I've never heard of this person. Nobody has. Don't feel bad. Nobody has. I mean, nobody watched this league until this year. All right? Well, last night, she assaulted Caitlin Clark on the court. Right before Caitlin Clark came off the court with 3:52 left, watch this vicious assault. Boom, right there.
Cash cow. Needle mover. Should be protected at all cost. Look, I'll go with him about 80% of the way here. She should be protected. But I want to be careful about what that word means. Because protect, in this argument, keeps sliding into give her the superstar whistle, and that's not what anybody should be asking for. What you want is consistency. Call the same foul in Chicago that you'd call in Indiana. Upgrade on tape when it's warranted and eject in the moment when it's obvious. That's not special treatment, that's just doing the job. And when he brings up the money in a second, you'll see why the league can't afford to keep getting this wrong.
They feel all these hard fouls against her are on purpose. They are on purpose, seriously. You know, this is not an accident. The fact that she acted like she didn't see her is ridiculous. That was not accidental. It was clearly a frustration foul. I think it was more than that. That was intentional. Do that in a pickup game and you will start a fight.
There it is. $2.2 billion. He says it fast and moves on, and I want to stop right there, because that number is the entire argument. The WNBA just signed the richest media deal in its history, and a huge chunk of the reason that deal exists is one 22-year-old guard from Iowa. That's leverage the league has never had, and every hard foul that gets a shrug from the league office is an uninsured bet placed against that number. You don't have to believe anybody is out to get her to see that. You just have to be able to do math. Now, is this actually a new problem, or has this been building all season? Watch.
Guys, it's all down through here. It is all down through here. People are pissed. How long is the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, going to allow these intentional assaults? Outrage. We've got pure outrage going on right now. I mean, this is...
And this is the part I think gets lost in all the noise. Chennedy Carter, Chicago. Everybody knows that one. But then he goes straight to Skylar Diggins-Smith. And Seattle. Forearm. Different team, different city, different night. That matters. Because the story people want to tell is that this is one franchise with a grudge, and the tape says it's broader than that. Ari McDonald and the Sparks got flagged for it too. When the same thing keeps happening across 4 or 5 different rosters, that's not a rivalry. That's a league-wide read that this is how you guard her, and nobody with a whistle is going to make you stop. That's an officiating failure. Full stop. Which brings us to Friday.
All right, not just kind of watching, but they're getting real ratings, real revenue. In other words, people are paying up to see her games at the gate. And the attendance, she's selling out every game across the country. And it's become sort of a phenomenon, right? If you haven't watched her play, picture a female that's a hybrid love child of Larry Bird and Steph Curry with the branding of Michael Jordan. It is pretty phenomenal to watch. I'm not even going to lie. Me and the family love watching Caitlin Clark.
All right, I have to check him here. Nobody's heard of Diamond DeShields. Come on. Number 3 overall pick. WNBA All-Star. Won a title with this same Chicago franchise in 2021. You can criticize the foul without pretending the player doesn't exist. And I'd argue that's actually where a lot of this coverage goes off the rails. The second you make it about who somebody is instead of what they did, you've stopped talking basketball. The play is the story. It's a bad play. It doesn't need help. Let's just watch it.
Here, and she's going to viciously slam Caitlin Clark to the floor, okay? Everybody remembers that. There was a massive amount of fallout. Just about a week ago, you had Skylar Diggins, after Caitlin Clark and the Storm beat a good Seattle Storm, she cut her off and gave her a forearm shiver right here.
Here's the sequence. Clark's out in transition. DeShields comes across, shoulder into her back, and Clark goes to the floor hard. Officials called it, the league reviewed it, and it got upgraded to a flagrant one. That's the correct call, and I'd defend it all day. What I won't do is what he does next, the help up. He reads it as fake, as smug. I don't know that. Neither does he. Neither does anyone watching a 5-second clip on a phone. And I'd rather argue the thing we can actually see, which is a defender initiating body contact on a player already in full stride with no play on the ball. That's the violation. You don't need a motive to call it what it is. But the fan reaction went somewhere else entirely.
She's a no-name. She better be fined. She better ride the bench. Did she get ejected from the game? No. Crooked play. I mean, she lowered her shoulder. WNBA, are you going to suspend her for several games? I mean, honestly, well, we know...
Shrapnel being thrown at the commissioner. Fine, that's actually the right direction to throw it. Because here's the thing everybody misses when they're screaming at a player. The player isn't the one who sets the standard. The league office is. The league office decides what gets upgraded, what draws a fine, what draws supplemental discipline, and whether any of it happens fast enough to change how the next team guards her. Chicago didn't invent this. Chicago just kept getting away with it. If you're mad, be mad at the desk that had all season to fix it. And the sharpest version of that argument is coming up.
Really bad look for you, Kathy Engelbert. It's getting bad. It's getting bad. Kathy Engelbert, you must do something about this. This chick committed 3 fouls on Clark within a minute. They were obviously intentional. She should be ejected. Kathy Engelbert, so you like thuggery. I mean, that's what we're doing here.
This right here? Did she get ejected? No. Is the single best point in this entire video, and he almost throws it away. Flagrant 1 means 2 free throws and the ball. That's it. You stay in the game. Flagrant 2 means you're gone. So the league's only real lever for a play like this is a post-game upgrade that costs the offending team absolutely nothing in the game where it happened. Think about the incentive that creates. You can put the league's biggest star on the floor in the fourth quarter of a 19-point loss and finish the night on the court. That is a policy hole you could drive a bus through. and it's fixable without suspending a single person. Now he goes somewhere I won't follow.
Race is a wrap. It's over. There's no more arguments for it. Now, Caitlin Clark, if you have not been following this, is arguably the biggest star in American sports right now. Out of Iowa, she has come into the WNBA, and they actually have people watching it. All right? Not just kind of watching, but they're getting real ratings.
In a wheelchair by 40. Okay, that's hyperbole, and I'm not signing it. But strip the drama out, and there's a real thing underneath. Clark played the most minutes of any rookie, ran more transition than anyone in the league, and absorbed a wildly disproportionate share of the flagrant contact. Roughly 1 in 6 of every flagrant foul called all season came against her. That's not a conspiracy, that's a workload and exposure problem, and it's the kind of thing that ends careers slowly, rather than in one highlight. Argue the exposure. The exposure is provable. Intent isn't, and reaching for it is how this conversation keeps losing people who'd otherwise agree.
The commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, putting her greatest asset on the line. They just signed a $2.2 billion media contract. That's right, the WNBA's actually got a good television rights deal. Who would have thought? Caitlin Clark is going to lead the bigger salaries. But these activists...
One of these days, Caitlin's not going to get up. He's being dramatic, and he's also describing the exact scenario that keeps league executives up at night. And there's precedent for how you handle it. The NBA didn't protect Jordan by suspending the bad boys. It protected him by changing the rules. Hand-checking, flagrant criteria, the freedom of movement points of emphasis. That's the playbook. Not vengeance, not headlines, just a rule change and a clear point of emphasis handed to every officiating crew before the season starts. His criticism of Kathy Engelbert is blunt as hell, but "you had all year and you issued a fine" is a fair thing to put on a commissioner, and then the comment section takes over.
A lot of outrage today. There's a lot of shrapnel being thrown out there, and it's being thrown at the commissioner. I mean, seriously, what are we doing here? I mean, look at this right there. What is going on in this league? And I'm going to be honest. You've had multiple
People are pissed. Yeah, they are. And I want to close on this, because it's the part of the story that got buried. That anger didn't go to the league office where it belonged. It went to a player's phone, and it got vile. People showing up in her mentions to tell her the spinal tumor she had removed in 2020 should have finished the job. That's not fandom. That's not even sports. And it's worth saying out loud, because it's the thing that made a legitimate officiating argument almost impossible to have in public. So here's where I land. The foul was bad, the flagrant was right, the discipline was toothless, and the league office has had a year of warnings. Aim at the desk, not the phone.
People are calling out the commissioner because they're like, what are you going to do? The commissioner needs to protect Caitlin Clark, period. One of these days, Caitlin's not going to get up from one of these cheap shots, and the WNBA gold rush will be over. Kathy Engelbert is useless. When are you going to do something about this, WNBA? Clark is going to get hurt if you don't start handing out hefty fines and suspensions. A really